I recently saw the new Super Mario Bros. Movie, and I'm gonna tell you what I think about it. And you can't stop me! First, let's start with the things that I like. I think this movie looks incredible. It's definitely the best looking Illumination film. The colors just pop, the lighting is incredible. There's also some really good shots that popped up from time to time. I also think the music is incredible. Now I'm talking about the original score, not the soundtrack, but the original score is so great. Anytime that I hear an orchestral version of a Mario or Nintendo song, I just lost it. And I really wish we had heard more of the original score because that was definitely the best part of the music. As other people have said, Jack Black and Charlie Day are definitely the peak vocal performances of this movie. Jack Black as Bowser, incredible, and Charlie Day as Luigi, fantastic. Many people have said this, but I'm going to say the same thing. I hope they make a Luigi's Mansion movie because that would be amazing and I would be first in line to see it. There's a character who's a blue star, and that might actually be a character from the games, I'm not sure, but the blue star was hilarious, was probably the best character in the whole movie. So funny, the funniest part of the movie, by far, my favorite character, MVP of the film for sure. Chris Pratt. Some people might be mad that I brought him up in this section at all, but honestly, I liked his performance as Mario. I did! Now, he wasn't doing the traditional Mario voice, as we all knew he wouldn't be. It was a New York, Brooklyn accent voice, and I thought it worked. I thought Chris Pratt was really good. I'd like to see him do the character again. I liked his performance. The biggest thing for this movie, my biggest takeaway, the thing that I enjoyed about it the most, was that it was really fun. It was a fun movie. I was laughing. I was really enjoying what I was watching. It was non-stop, which I will kind of come back to in a negative way, but it was fun. It's a really fun movie. It's not the best movie of all time. There's definitely issues. It's way, way far from perfect, but I thought it was really fun. There's some really funny jokes, there's great characters, there's even some cool shots, like I said, that I was really impressed by. It's a great time. Now let's move on to things that I thought were just okay. Every other vocal performance was fine. They weren't bad, they weren't great, but I thought they were okay. Nobody did a bad job, but nobody else really stood out to me. Anya Taylor-Joy was fine. Keegan-Michael Key was fine. Everybody else was fine. The needle drops are weird, but fine. So they don't bother me as much as other people. It was sort of strange to hear these 80s songs just pop up randomly in the Mario movie. It didn't make me go like, this is weird, I was just like, I like this song. It is a bit odd that it's right here, but I'm not hating my experience listening to it. I think I have a really easy fix for this though. If they had just made a real point to highlight that this takes place in the 80s, like when they were in Brooklyn, if they had really highlighted that this took place in the 80s, I think those songs would have been great because they're 80s songs, and we would have been like, okay, well, this movie takes place in the 80s. Mario and Luigi literally come from the 80s. I think the songs would have made more sense, and a lot more people would have enjoyed their placement in the film, but as they stand right now, they are kind of weird, but they didn't super bother me. Most of the jokes were fine, but they weren't totally, like, cringy either. They were okay, and that's not really a great thing if most of the humor was just fine. I didn't really laugh that hard at most of the humor, but most of the humor wasn't that cringy. They were just okay. The story was fine. It didn't have a lot of meat on its bones. It moved really, really fast, but, you know, it seems kind of on par for a Mario movie. Do I think that because it's a Mario movie, the story should have taken a backseat? No. Because it is Mario, I think it can get away with having an okay story, but I do wish that in future installments, maybe the story gets a little more attention. Now, I don't know why the story ended up this way. It could have been because Nintendo was really holding the filmmakers back, but because this is Illumination, I really don't want to give them too much credit or too much leeway, so I don't know what happened to cause this story to be so weak, but at least it was still fun, so that's why it's just kind of in the fine category. Alright, now let's move on to the things that I did not like about the movie at all. Some of the lines and the jokes really made me cringe. Like, I was sitting there and I was like, that's okay. There was one joke that I thought was kind of lame. One of the characters, who is a blue shell turtle, shouts, "Blue shell!" and then throws their shell. And I was kind of like, would he say that though? Would he shout blue shell? It made me kind of go, that seems a little try-hard to me. There's one time where a character goes, "What?" And I was sitting there thinking, is that even a joke people make anymore? And it felt weird to hear a character from the Mushroom Kingdom go, "What?" There were other such examples of these jokes and these lines, but I can't remember all of them. I didn't write them all down, but luckily most of the jokes aren't like that, but there are some that really just made me go, ugh, you tried way too hard and it did not work. Like I said, the story was really rushed, but there are times where it's like really obviously rushed and I didn't like it. It was like, wow, you didn't even try here. For example, there's a time where someone says, you can't come with me. And the other person says, but I really want to. And the first person says, okay. And you're just like, what? They didn't even have to try. Like they didn't even put any effort into that moment. I don't know why they were trying to go so fast. I will say it's a 90-minute film, so it does move pretty quickly. And a lot of people like that it's so short, but I think that it's at the expense of the story. And so I think in the future, maybe let it go a little longer than 90 minutes, but fill that time with actual substance in your story. Don't just make it longer. I've heard a lot of people say they're glad it's so short because Illumination often stuffs their movies with pointless stuff, but I feel like it did come at the cost of some story elements. I don't know, I feel like there's a good middle ground where it could go a little longer, but if they actually put some substantial story plot points in there. And those are really the only things that I actually didn't like, the things that I actively disliked. It's a pretty short list, so I think that's pretty good. I think it came out pretty unscathed. It was a really fun movie. I had a great time watching it. I definitely want to see a sequel, and I really want to see a Luigi's Mansion movie. And you know what? I want Chris Pratt to come back as Mario. I really liked him as Mario. I think that was great. I hope next time the stories are a little more fleshed out. Obviously, we don't need to have like the best dramatic movie of all time, but it does need more substance to it. So hopefully in the future, the story gets a little more love, but I loved the way it looked. I loved the world. I loved a few of the vocal performances, and I liked a lot of the humor, and I loved a lot of the set pieces. So there's a lot of great stuff here. If you love Mario, you should definitely go watch it. And if you have kids, you should definitely take them to go see it. A lot of my friends who have kids, their kids' eyes were just glued to the screen. In fact, one of my friends who has a little 3-year-old boy said that he could not stop watching the movie and that's not common for him. But his eyes were glued to the film and he was invested in the character. So I think it's a great movie to bring your kids to. They'll probably love it. If your kids like Mario as well, they'll probably adore this movie. If you don't like Mario, you might not enjoy it as much because there are some kind of references to the series that won't mean anything to you, but you might still have a good time. Who knows? So I definitely recommend this movie. I know I don't really talk about movies a lot, but since this movie is kind of video game adjacent, I thought I'd give it a shot on my channel. If you want to see me talk about more movies in the future, let me know, because I really like movies and I like talking about movies. So if you want to hear my thoughts about them, let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more from my channel, please subscribe and leave a like on this video. If you want to see another video from my channel, you can click right here. This is a video that YouTube thinks that you're going to really enjoy, so I'm going to let YouTube pick this one, because you know what? YouTube can have a pretty good opinion sometimes. What am I saying? What am I talking about? Click the video.